Nothing like a walk through the White Forest at night, though they're playing a lot more Imagine Dragons than I expected. Oh, a lost little girl. Can you tell me your name, little girl?
My name is Asteria, and I like playing with toys.
Oh.
My friend Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity tells me to kill people.
What the hell?
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts! I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. This past week was the NAWCQ, and after months of doomsaying about the format, I regret to inform you that... No. Well, this can't be. According to this, the Tier 0 format that we expected failed to come to fruition. Well, shoot. If the meta's more open than we thought, let's play something lower power. Presenting White Forest.
Run, Forest, run! Run, Forest!
So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. I've been shilling Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck for, well, years at this point, and I'm happy to announce I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. By now, they've become the most complete repository of tournament tops on the internet, the best place to jam prog with friends, and of course, still host strategy articles. Recently, they've added a new piece of infrastructure to the fold, a 3-card arena draft, draftable with card pools featuring classic formats, Master Duel, or within any parameters you like. Give it, or any of their other features, a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's wander into the White Forest. White Forest is a prologue to the Diabellstar storyline, following the adventures of a young Diabells and Diabellstar back when the former was pure of heart and the latter showered. These monsters are level 2 non-tuners, level 4 tuners, and level 6 and 8 synchros. By laddering through them, you can make all sorts of powerful monsters, including Borreload Savage, Baron. Oh, okay, I'm starting to see why this didn't clear at the NAWCQ. Well, certainly there's still some proactive synchros to make. That's fine. We'll just have to find something else to do with these enablers. And I think I've got a pretty good idea of what. See, when it comes to synchro monsters, the TCG may be lacking Baron and Borreload, but we have a card that every other region lacks. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. This card wins games on its own, and with the inhabitants of the White Forest, we can all but ensure it resolves. By weaving through a small centur-ion package, we can make Auxilla, and occasionally Blazar, before ever even committing to Azathoth 2. All that's left outside of this shell is enough material to consistently trigger the effects of the White Forest monsters, and what better tools for a pair of little girls than a toy box. These monsters are nigh infinite material for the steep costs of their effects, and the bodies on board extend you to infinity. Ultimately, we should have a well-oiled machine that aims to play as little Yu-Gi-Oh! As possible. So with that, let's get into the card by card. We're going to begin with our White Forest monsters. 3 copies of Asteria of the White Forest. You can send a spell trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon a light spellcaster tuner from your deck, and if a spell trap is sent to your graveyard to activate a monster effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. 3 copies of Reset of the White Forest. You can send a spell trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, then add a White Forest monster from your deck to your hand, except Reset of the White Forest. If a light spellcaster tuner is special summoned to your field during your opponent's turn while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. 2 copies of Sylvae of the White Forest. If this card is normally special summoned, you can add a White Forest spell trap from your deck to your hand, and if this card is in your graveyard, you can target a White Forest synchro monster you control or have in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon this card, but its effects are negated. Finally, we're on 1 copy of Urkia of the White Forest. If you control a White Forest monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, you can send a spell trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to draw a card, and if this card is in your graveyard, as a quick, you can target a White Forest synchro you control or in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and special summon this card, but its effects are negated. After that, we've got our toys. 3 copies of Toy Soldier, which can be set to your spell and trap card zone as a spell, and if it is sent to the graveyard, can be special summoned. If this card is normally special summoned, you get to add a toy box from your deck to your hand, or if you already have the toy box, a level 4 light monster instead. We're playing 1 copy of Toy Tank. This card can also be set from your hand to your spell and trap zone as a spell, and if this set card is sent to the graveyard, it can be special summoned. It can also be tributed to special summon a level 6 or lower monster from your hand, or if you control Toy Box, you can special summon a level 6 or lower monster from your graveyard instead. Our Cool and Chill Centur-ion package is 1 Primera, 1 Trudeo, and 1 1 Gargoyle 2, the minimum amount of monsters necessary to make both Auxilla and Crimson Dragon. After that, we've got our single White Forest spell. If you control an illusion or a spellcaster monster, add a White Forest monster from your deck to your hand, and if this card is set to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you can set this card. We're playing 3 copies of Stand Up Centur-ion and 3 copies of Emblema Oath. Very important that we're able to access the Centur-ion half of our deck, and 3 copies of Toybox. Once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can send a face-down card you control to the graveyard to destroy that monster, and once per turn, you can activate one of these effects, either from your hand, deck, face-up monster zone, or graveyard. Choose up to 2 monsters with toy in their names that can set themselves from the hand as a spell, and set them in your spell and trap zones as spells, or destroy up to 2 cards in your spell and trap zone. For traps, we've got 1 copy of Woes of the White Forest, which can special summon a White Forest monster from your hand or deck. Then after this effect resolves, synchro summon a White Forest monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you can set this card, and of course 1 copy of Phalanx. For non-engine, we're on 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Droll, 3 copies of Effect Veiler, a Called by the Grave, and 3 Infip. In the extra, we've got Blazar Dragon, the one, the only Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, Legacia, Auxilla, Crimson Dragon, Chaos Angel, Chengjing, a Diabell, Queen of the White Forest, a tuner and a non-tuner. If this card is synchro summoned using a tuner synchro monster as material, you can target a spell trap in your graveyard, put it in your hand, and when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can send a spell trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon a level 7 or lower tuner synchro from your extra deck, graveyard, or banishment. 1 copy of Tri-Edge Master, 1 copy of Wicked of the White Forest. If this card is special summoned, you can send a spell trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to add a White Forest card or a light spellcaster from your deck to your hand, and this of course is a once per turn. Illusion and spellcaster synchros you control gain 500 and can't be destroyed by card effects. And finally, 1 copy of Silvera, Witchwolf of the White Forest. This is a 6. If this card is special summoned, you can change all face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position. This is an incredibly powerful effect you will be using a lot. Illusion and spellcaster synchro monsters you control gain 500 attack, and if they attack a defense position monster, double piercing battle damage to your opponent. We are on a Baguska, as well as an Apollosa, an SP, and an IP Masquerena in the side. We've got the Yuge, 3 Nibiru, 3 Perulia, 3 Dark Ruler, 3 Cyclone, and 3 evenly matched. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Scareclaw Kashtira. Wow, still fighting the good fight. Our hand looks fantastic, and our opponent doesn't have much in the way of non-engine, just a triple tactics talents, so let's see what we can accomplish. We're going to begin with a copy of Toybox. We're going to set 2 cards to our back row, normal summon a copy of Stella, and then send one of those bad boys for our Sylvie. We'll trigger the effect of our Toy Soldier in the graveyard, and then what do you know, on summon we can trigger the second effect in order to grab a copy of Rukia. We'll go for the spell card here, and then make a copy of Rukia from the Synchro Zone. We'll send that Toy Tank, which will trigger the Toy Tank effect and summon itself, at which point we can go ahead and summon little Diabells from our hand. We'll go for the Estella effect in graveyard, summoning it out before we go into Diabell herself. Next, we're going to cycle back 1 card, activate Toybox, and then activate the graveyard effect of our copy of Sylvie. That's going to enable us to summon a copy of Auxilla, which is going to get us all the way to our Centur-ion package. We'll make IP Masquerena, then trigger the effect of the Toy Tank to go into the Primera from hand. From here, we can go for the stand-up Centur-ion in order to set a copy of Trudea, special the Trudea from our back row, and activate her effect in order to cycle a Gargoyle 2. We'll go for the Gargoyle 2 and make a copy of Crimson Dragon, triggering the effect of the Gargoyle 2, then activating the Crimson Dragon, targeting our Auxilla to go to a Blazar before we even do anything. Here, Auxilla is going to set this copy of Primera before our opponent takes an action. They're going to go for Reichphobia. We will chain the effect of Primera, and of course, afterwards, we can go ahead and activate the effect of the Primera, chain the effect of Trudea, resolve the effect of Primera, and at point of resolution, perform a Synchro Summon. We'll go for the Crimson Dragon. They will triple tack to take, we'll negate with the Blazar, and now it's time to port out. We will go Crimson Dragon, target our copy of Auxilla, and there's Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Thankfully, he resolves. Our opponent does summon a number of monsters. I'm a little concerned, but we can always use in order to summon herself back, and sets effect in order to go into IP Masquerena into SP Little Knight. We'll go ahead and banish this copy of Scareclaw Kashtira. They'll make an SP of their own, go to the battle phase, but oops, Toybox will be able to prevent that from doing anything. They'll pass turn here, and our Blazar returns. We should just be able to switch these bad boys to attack position and get in. We'll do just that, performing well over lethal damage against our opponent. Our second match is up against Mimighoul, and ooh, well, if this is Peeps, he would tell you this is the best deck in the format, but I think we might be okay. They're going to begin with a copy of Cerberus. They're going to follow it up with a Maker. Afterwards, they're going to summon an Archfiend to our side of the field, and summon a copy of Dragon as well. They'll activate the effect of the Dragon in order to grab the Field Spell. Field Spell will cut us off normal summons until we resolve this outstanding board state. They're going to normal summon a Master, activate the effect, and then go ahead and set that copy of Imperm. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to manually break the lock here, so we'll flip up a Cerberus. That's going to go ahead and banish a whole bunch of cards. We'll flip up a Dragon. That's going to go ahead and give our opponent another monster, and finally, we will go for the Archfiend. Thankfully, that gets rid of everything on board. We will imperm this Master, and then we'll go for a Soldier into an L-set. That Soldier will summon itself, and will activate its effect in order to grab a toy box. We'll go for Tails here. That's going to grab us what we're missing before we go for the effect of the toy box in order to set 2 cards from our deck. With enough material to send here, we're going to start with the in order to make a copy of Silvera. They're going to infip the Silvera, and at this point, we should be fine. We'll go for the RC in Graveyard in order to tag it out, and all those bad boys are going face down. What's the problem? I thought you were a flip deck. We're going to go for the effect of our Asteria, followed by the effect of our Sylve, and then we'll make another copy of Silvera. We'll go to the battle phase here and use Silvera's effect in order to pierce over our opponent for well over lethal. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing what else but Snake... Ooh, not Snake Eye at all. Yeah, I'll take Fiendsmith U-Bell. You can see that we're going first, and our hand looks pretty crazy. We're going to begin with a copy of Emblema Oath. That's going to set a Primera. We'll activate the Primera effect to summon herself, and the effect to search, which will eat an Ash Blossom. That's fine. I think we can actually do it from here. We'll activate the spell here in order to grab a copy of Diabells. Then we'll send that Toy Soldier, triggering both the Diabells and the Toy Soldier effect, summoning itself and activating its on-summon effect in order to grab a Toy Box. We'll Toy Box for a couple of cards in the back row, and this Astera has a really fantastic number of stars on her. We're going to go directly into Oxilla. Oxilla here for a copy of Stand Up, and we will go for the Stand Up effect, pitching this Phalanx for a copy of Trudea. Trudea here will summon herself, then activate the effect to summon a copy of Gargoyle 2. Gargoyle 2 time, and then afterwards we'll make a Masquerena. Phalanx can summon back this copy of Oxilla, and we'll go to the end phase, at which point the Oxilla will set a copy of Primera. Our opponent's going to draw for turn. They're going to begin with a copy of Opening of the Spirit Gates. God, I wish I could have set this infinite impermanence, but I have too much in the back row. We're going to go ahead and summon all that we can, then we'll activate the effect of the Stand Up and the Primera, and also the effect of the Diabells and Graveyard. We're going to go into a Crimson Dragon. Then, as CL1, we will activate Crimson Dragon, targeting Oxilla into a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Our opponent's going to go Beckoning Beast into Grave Squirmer into Unchained Soul of Yama into Grave Squirmer into Beckoning Beast, at which point I figure we might as well Masquerena and banish the board. We'll go SP Little Knight, and our opponent will concede. So it's time for game 2, and oh my god, Chummy in the draw phase, it's almost like Maxi. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Tractus. We will Ash Blossom this, because anything else we would Ash Blossom is going to draw us a bunch of cards. Here comes Opening of the Spirit Gates into Dark Beckoning Beast. We'll draw a card into Chaos Summoning Beast, which they will normal summon, and then afterwards we're going to go into a copy of Moon, into Requiem, activate the effect of the Requiem in order to get the Fiendsmith, and equip that Requiem so it can be ample fusion material for Necroquip Princess. Here we're summoning the Fiendsmith back to go into Sequence, and then activating the Sequence effect in order to summon an Aerial Razor. Aerial Razor will send a Samsara D Lotus to the graveyard, and we'll summon it back with the Gates. From here, they'll activate the effect of the Samsara for a copy of Spirit of Ubel, then activate the Spirit of Ubel effect in order to set a copy of Pain. They'll activate Nightmare Pain, and then go ahead and pop this copy of Spirit of Ubel, then activate the effect of the Spirit of Ubel for a Ubel, and activate Mature Chronicle as well. Down comes Unchained Soul Lord of Yama, into the Doge, into a copy of Apollosa, into Aerial Eater, into Gruesome Grave Squirmer, into Spirit of Ubel, into Unchained Soul of Sharvara, giving us the maximum draws off this Perulia. We're going to trigger the Graveyard effect of the Yama as well for the Spirit of Ubel and the Ubel. After this, we can go into Wave High King Caesar and Varudris. Finally, Triple Tactics Thrust. We'll go ahead and set a copy of D-Barrier. Not bad for drawing a couple of cards here. They're going to go D-Barrier, calling Synchro, and we may be cooked. Yeah, we'll begin with a copy of Toy Box. We'll activate the effect in order to set a couple of cards, and I don't know. I guess we'll go for Diabells. They will Wave High King Caesar, and we will activate the effect of the Toy Tank in Graveyard. They're going to go ahead and set a card off of this Sharvara. We'll summon back the Toy Tank and go Emblema Oath. That's going to set a copy of Stand Up Centur-ion. We can just lose to Varudris. Okay, let's normal summon this copy of Sylve. We'll go ahead and grab a card. We'll activate Tales of the White Forest, and then afterwards we can activate that in hand in order to summon herself and send this copy of Soldier, which will also get Caesared. Oh boy, okay. Let's overlay for Baguska, go to the battle phase to walk over the Apollosa, and make ourselves a copy of SP Little Knight in main phase 2. I mean, maybe that'll be enough. We'll set 2 cards and pass back to our opponent, but with the live copy of OSS, I don't think it's really possible. They're going to go into a Phantom into Mature Chronicle. We'll call by the grave this copy of the Fiendsmith, which is nice, but probably not enough. They'll activate the effect of Mature Chronicle. God, I hate to see this happen, into Ubel, and then Nightmare Pain that sucker away. That's going to trigger the Ubel, and of course, it's also going to enable them to get more counters on the Mature Chronicle, summon back the Spirit of Ubel off the Gates, and Abominable Chamber of the Unchained, at which point we'll go for the SP Little Knight into the Phantom of Ubel, into the Spirit of Ubel, into the Sharvara, into the Spirit of Ubel, into the Ubel. After this, they're going to go into an Unchained Soul of Rage, and finally, they're going to make another Phantom, because you can just keep doing that. They'll walk in for 16, and 16, and 16, and is this lethal? I can't really do math. The Grave Squirmer ought to figure it out. They'll go ahead and pop this copy of Spirit of Ubel and summon a Ubel from deck. That's an additional 16, which means all they have to do is get over my monster just a little bit. We're going to go for the toy box here and summon a monster, which is nice. We'll activate the effect. They will ash it, and then they will be able to get over the SP Little Knight with this copy of Unchained Soul of Rage. We have lived until the end of the turn, but unfortunately they can stack their triggers in such a way that they don't have to trigger the end phase effect of Terror Incarnate. We're going to go toy box here, popping our toy soldier. They will negate it with the effect of Phantom of Yubel and trigger the effect in order to summon back Terror Incarnate. We will normal summon Primera, activate the effect of the Primera for a stand-up Centurion, at which point they will rage, targeting our toy soldier. That's going to make SP Little Knight, and a point of resolution, they will negate the field spell by banishing it. Down comes Emblema Oath into a copy of HRDAKC, but unfortunately the SP Little Knight checks that and will scoop him up. So it's time for that all-important game 3, and okay, this hand is broken, and our opponents open no non-engine. We're going to begin with a copy of Oath. We will go ahead and set this copy of Primera. Primera effect to summon itself. Then afterwards, we'll trigger the effect of the Primera in order to grab a stand-up Centurion. Stand-up Centurion here will pitch this Nibiru. Why not? To get a copy of HRDAKC. HRDAKC effect will summon herself, then activate her effect to set a Gargoyle 2. We'll activate the effect of Gargoyle 2, summoning it, and then afterwards we'll perform a Synchro Summon into Axilla. Axilla 1, Gargoyle 2, 2, and we will go ahead and grab another copy of stand-up, which we will pitch for this copy of Lil Diabels. We will go ahead and normal summon this copy of Asteria, and then we'll go for a Silva as well. We'll trigger the effect of the Silva and make a copy of Wicked of the White Forest. From here, we can activate the graveyard effect of both the Astera and this copy of the spell card, and then afterwards we can just flip up the tails. Then we'll go for a copy of in hand and make a copy of Diabel. Diabel will trigger here in order to once again grab us back that spell card. Let's go for the graveyard effect of our Sylve, and then we will make a Crimson Dragon and a Blazar early. This should be as much protection as we can get for our monster. We'll go for the Axilla at end phase for the HRDAKC. Our opponent draws, and let's see what we can accomplish here. They're going to lead Phantom of Yubel, which is cool, but Blazar can actually negate summons, and because that summon doesn't start a chain, that is just the type of thing that it's trying to feed on. We will go into our combo here and activate the effect of the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Not a lot our opponent can do here. Droll is just insult to injury. They're going to set a card, but we will go ahead and flip the trap here, go for IP Masquerade into SP Little Knight, and eat that as well, putting them at a hugely devastating position. We'll set the Primera and just switch these bad boys to attack position, triggering the Primera as well because I'm feeling like an asshole now. We'll go for Gargoyle 2 into Apollosa before we go to the battle phase. 24, 3, 4, and well over lethal. So we're back with the deck, and, well, it could have gone worse. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. The White Forest monsters pump out level 6 and 10 synchros extremely easily, either as an engine or on their own. But Asteria gives them the ability to summon any level 4 light spellcaster tuner from deck. In this list, obviously, we've chosen Primera because I think she gets you the most value as her own singular card instead of as a full supplementary engine. 2. If you end on only the White Forest cards, you can still loop 2 Book of Eclipse effects, which many decks just fall flat to. The Book of Eclipse also provides double piercing damage, which helps you OTK after everything goes down. And 3, the Toy Box engine brings it all together. There are spell traps you can send for Whitewoods, which get you level 4 extenders. They're essential for raising your ceiling. And Toy Box is a defensive card, letting you blow up a monster in the battle phase and getting you a toy card trigger, which can grind games out or lower your opponent's end board on turn 2 and beyond. And the cons. 1. These cards need to send to the graveyard for cost in order to get the effects. So Shifter turns off every single Whitewoods effect and stops their graveyard recursion. It basically grinds your turn to a halt. The deck's also search heavy, so Droll also beats you. 2. You need to see the toy engine or your plays are going to be way weaker. The free bodies, the searches, and the summons from the toy engine elevate your ceiling by a notable amount and give you the ability to play through hand traps. If you don't have them, your hand is going to be very weak. And finally, 3, the deck is bricky. Not seeing enough spell traps to enable White Forest combos can leave you with a notable amount of unplayable hands. You can opt to play breakers instead and maybe get more consistency out of the White Forest cards, but lowering your opponent's ceiling helps the deck go second tremendously versus needing to see 2 very specific cards. Overall, the deck has a variety of ways to play, but has just enough issues to warrant its lack of representation. Keep an eye on it for future formats where the power level of decks is decreased. There is a lot of potential here. So that's that. These 10-minute testings are subsidized by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons. So I'm going to rattle off the names of some of the higher tier ones right now. Thank you all so much. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. Slifer274, Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ali, Brett Henry, Canner, Seaweed, Darkmaster Zork, Derp and Dragon, Devin Senpai, DJ Elefante, FPS Lord Derp, Gravity, John Piet, Juan Cruz Avila Zati, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Master of Faster, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Project Mercury, Rose Lapine, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Your Pot of Greed Does What, and Yuki.